Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Gardella. I'm the branch manager for the Goodyear Branch Library. This evening, I have Wondering Aesthetics joining us, and they are going to do a virtual poetry reading for us. We titled it Verse by Verse. So I'm going to turn it over to Benjamin Rexrode and Kyle Joza.
All right. Thank you so much, Tanya. Yes, my name is Kyle Joza, and that who will speak soon because you won't be able to see him till he says anything is Benjamin Rexrode.
Yes, I am Benjamin Rexrode.
And we are from the theater company Wandering Aesthetics. Wandering Aesthetics is an Akron-based theater company. We do a lot of work with the youth. We do youth classes and shows and workshops. We also do some shows for adults and youth alike. Right now, we're developing a show called How to Find a Ghost. And we also do some community events like Bigger Than a Bread Box, which was a vaudeville show, and the Electric Pressure Cooker Cabaret, which is an anything goes open mic. But tonight, we are doing a poetry reading called Verse by Verse.
And actually, Kyle, as you mentioned that, why don't you kick it off with a poem?
That sounds like a great idea. This poem is called A Valentine for Earnest Man by Naomi Shihab Nye. You can't order a poem like you order a taco. Walk up to the counter and say, "I'll take two," and expect it to be handed back to you on a shiny plate. Still, I like your spirit. Anyone who says, "Here's my address, write me a poem," deserves something in reply. So I'll tell you a secret instead. Poems hide. In the bottoms of our shoes, they are sleeping. They are the shadows drifting across our ceilings the moment before we wake up. What we have to do is live in a way that lets us find them. Once I knew a man who gave his wife 2 skunks for a Valentine. He couldn't understand why she was crying. I thought they had such beautiful eyes. And he was serious. He was a serious man who lived in a serious way. Nothing was ugly just because the world said so. He really liked those skunks. And so he reinvented them as Valentines, and they became beautiful, at least to him. And the poems that had been hiding in the eyes of the skunks for centuries crawled out and curled up at his feet. Maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives give us, we find poems. Check your garage, the odd sock in your drawer, the person you almost like, but not quite, and let me know.
Man, oh man, A Valentine for Earnest Man is one of my favorite poems of all time. And we thought it was a great introduction to any performance about poetry. Not only is it beautiful, but it's a poem about poetry, about where poems come from. And I think it does a great job of showcasing one of the things that makes a great poem.
And great art in general.
Specificity. As an artist, when you get specific, you get universal. People connect to those little moments, those little details. For example, I could say, I was driving a car.
Or I can say, I was driving a cherry red 67 Corvette, or I was driving a rusty Buick that belched exhaust fumes.
Now, each of those specific details paints a picture. And today, I'm going to be sharing some specific details from my life.
As we were going through and deciding which of Benji's poems to use, a theme started to emerge. It was sort of like the life and times of Benjamin Rexrode.
Or to put it another way, a song of myself.
Except for there was one poem we wanted to include that didn't quite fit.
All right, and that poem, and we just thought it was funny, and it's one of mine, and it's called Clairvoyance is a Glow in the Dark Telephone. The blue rotary telephone, a throwback to my childhood, rings. The caller ID shows an unfamiliar number, a number that must have called 1,000 times before, but I never seem to be home. Until now, my heart races, a pause before I put the receiver to my ear. My mouth can't form words. Then I hear it.
Hello? From the other side.
See, and that was a poem about a song. And so, as we were figuring out which of my poems to use, we were trying to figure out what other poets or poems would go along with it, would fit next to mine.
Yeah, so you weren't stuck just listening to Benji the whole time.
Exactly. And we asked ourselves, what would make sense? What works with it?
Then it sort of hit us during our poetry perusal, if you will. We heard of some obscure poet that had written a song about himself.
I mean, you've probably never heard of him.
Yeah, I think his name was like Walter Whiteman. Walter White.
Kyle, I think that's a guy from Breaking Bad that you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I actually think his name was something along the lines of Walt Whitman, right?
Yeah, the chocolate guy. Yeah.
Yes, the chocolate guy, the sampler. Okay. And so we should say, all joking aside, there is no way that I'm comparing myself to one of America's most famous writers and thinkers. But as we read his Song of Myself, we found a lot of thematic similarities.
And since his poem is quite long, thankfully it is broken up into sections that are sort of like mini poems. We pulled out some that we felt were the most fitting sections, and then we paired them with Benji's poems.
So you get a little bit of the past, a little bit of the present, a little bit of me, a little bit of him.
Now, if you are interested in reading Walt Whitman's full poem, I think it might be available for loan through the library.
But Kyle, I'm not really sure he has that big of a following.
Yeah, he's still just an indie poet.
Yeah, just an independent guy no one's ever heard of. So, with that, Kyle, let's go verse by verse.
Section 1. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. My tongue, every atom of my blood, formed from this soil, this air, born here of parents, born here from parents the same, and their parents the same. I, now 37 years old, in perfect health begin, hoping to cease not till death. Creeds and schools in abeyance, retiring back a while, sufficed at what they are, but never forgotten. I harbor for good or bad. I permit to speak at every hazard. Nature without check, with original energy.
Wrong, mute button. So that he talks about atoms and where he comes from. And so this is a poem called A Roadmap to Where I Live, and it's about where I come from. And for my poems, we sort of follow this trend of from my beginning through my end, and we start with as Shakespeare, or as people say about Shakespeare, tell them what they're going to see, show it to them, and tell them what they saw. This is a vague structure of his work. So that's sort of what we're doing here. So this is telling you what you're going to see. A roadmap to where I live. Start on the corner of May and 6th. All great things destined to be mediocre do. Drive until you reach a childhood better left forgotten. It'll be the one with the drunken stepfather, beer cans crumbled at his feet, or the mother with violet palm prints hidden on her arm, whichever you see first. Continue to the intersection of teen angst and bad poetry. That light might seem long. In the end, it's only 7 years. You'll see betrayal and a fall in high school. Go straight. The road twists and curves, but ride it out. But watch for those potholes labeled happiness. They're deep and can be dangerous. On the right, you'll see my first boyfriend make a sharp left, turn down a girl who loved me too much. It's a dead-end street. She went nowhere. Burger King wrappers, discarded birthday presents, and ticket stubs are windblown. 2 roads down is a show I walked out on. Turn right. It's 12th grade journalism and a first detention. My house is a first on the left. It's purple with pink shutters.
Section 3. I have heard what the talkers were talking, the talk of the beginning and the end, but I do not talk of the beginning or the end. There was never any more inception than there is now, nor any more youth or age than there is now, and will never be any more perfection than there is now, nor any more heaven or hell than there is now. Urge and urge and urge, always the procreant urge of the world. Out of the dimness, opposite equals advance. Always substance and increase, always sex. Always a knit of identity, always distinction, always a breed of life. To elaborate is no avail. Learned and unlearned feel that it is so. Sure as the most certain shore, plumb in the uprights, well entreated, braced in the beams, stout as a horse, affectionate, haughty, electrical, I and this mystery, here we stand. Clear and sweet is my soul, and clear and sweet is all that is not my soul. Lack one, lacks both, and the unseen is proved by the seen, till that becomes unseen and receives proof in its turn. Showing the best and dividing it from the worst, age vexes age. Knowing the perfect fitness and equanimity of things, while they discuss, I am silent and go bathe and admire myself. Welcome is every organ and attribute of me and of any man hearty and clean. Not an inch nor a particle of an inch is vile, and none shall be less familiar than the rest. I am satisfied. I see, dance, laugh, and sing as the hugging and loving bedfellow sleeps at my side through the night and withdraws at the peep of the day with stealthy tread, leaving me baskets covered with white towels swelling in the house with their plenty. Shall I postpone my acceptation and realization and scream at my eyes that they turn from gazing after and down the road and forthwith cipher and show me to a cent exactly the value of one and exactly the value of two, and which is ahead?
Now, here's a poem about little baby Benji. And it's called Fear is a Robin's Egg Blue Baby. When I was a baby, my well-worn crib was carried to my grandparents' room. I had difficulty breathing in my sleep. We couldn't afford a hospital stay, so Mima did what women have been doing since the beginning. She gathered me to her ample but milkless bosom and sat a nightly vigil in the same rocking chair that supported generations of Smith, Workman, Ellenbrook, Morton, Rexrode women through every thankless night tending to sick children. She kept her nightmares at bay, listening to the quiet wisdom of the rocker's rails on the cold wooden floor. And through hand-me-down hymns, she would sing in her warbling alto, partly for me, partly for herself, partly for a God she wasn't sure she could believe in if anything happened to me. When my breath would become labored or cease altogether, she would press my tiny body to her heart until my fragile lungs would find the rhythm in the rise and the fall of her chest. I think she loved it. This was the closest she could come to giving me, her second-hand son, life.
From Life to Life, Section 7. Has anyone supposed it lucky to be born? I hasten to inform him or her it is just as lucky as to die, and I know it. I pass death with the dying and birth with the new washed babe, and am not contained between my hat and boots, and peruse manifold objects, no two alike and every one good. The earth good, and the stars good, and their adjuncts all good. I'm not an earth, nor an adjunct of an earth. I am the mate and companion of people, all just as immortal and fathomless as myself. They do not know how immortal, but I know. For every kind for itself and its own, for me, mine, male and female. For me, those that have been boys and love women. For me, the man that is proud and feels how it stings to be slighted. For me, the sweetheart and the old maid. For me, mothers and the mothers of mothers. For me, lips that have smiled and eyes that have shed tears. For me, children and the begetters of children. Undrape. You're not guilty to me, nor stale, nor discarded. I see through the broadcloth and gingham, whether or no, and am around, tenacious, acquisitive, tireless, and cannot be shaken away.
Wow, excuse me. So this poem, and I swear that all of my poems don't have these type of titles. It's just it happened that most of these that we picked do, or a lot of them do. This one is called God is a Sunburst Orange Wooden Spoon. And it's about me as a toddler. Mother sighs. Housework and waitressing have tightened her waist, deepened frown lines. My insolent fingers grasp for something to help with. All I can do is hold on to staying out of her way. Our small apartment never seems clean enough. Mother chases visible dust. For one whole month, we went without electricity. We lived by flickering candlelight, eating nothing but stale Lay's potato chips and warm grape soda. It was never like this. Mother didn't break in anger when I cried through the night, didn't yell when I clumsily dropped cracked wedding china. She ruled my world with long brown hair, peanut butter eyes, and a cure all injury smile. Now it's my smile. My head cradled in her lap, rocking me to sleep. Lately, I'm lucky to get a good night. She used to be Mommy. My name beckons me to the kitchen. I cross the 3 steps, waiting an extra beat with each foot, buying time. The blush across her cheek is anger, rose anger. A loose strand of hair falls into her eyes, a wooden spoon clenched in her left hand, her right hand pointing to an empty cookie jar. A drop collects in the corner of my eye. I look down, the checkered floor holding my gaze. My nod is slight, barely a movement. She reaches for my hand. Instinctively, I pull away, and heaven crashes down on my knuckles.
Section 9. The big doors of the country barn stand open and ready. The dried grass of the harvest time loads the slow-drawn wagon. The clear light plays on the brown, gray, and green intertinged. The armfuls are packed to the sagging mow. I am there. I help. I came stretched top of the load. I felt its soft jolts, one leg reclined on the other. I jump from the crossbeams and seize the clover and timothy and roll head over heels and tangle my hair full of wisps.
Wisps. So from open doors to open doors, this is about the first time I met my dad. I didn't know who he was until I was about in late elementary or early middle school. And so this one is called TPA Paintball, or A Moment Before the First Meeting with My Father. The intersection of Cleveland Avenue and State Route 619. A traffic light meditates on red. 5 parking spaces in front of a duplex storefront. An open flag flutters in the breeze of cars passing by. A sign advertises a class taught last Saturday. Icy steps lead to an abused door colored light gray to match the sky. The latch painted shut, replaced by a lock and high-tech alarm system. The door opens. A bell jingles.
Section 16, possibly one of my favorite sections. I am of old and young, of the foolish as much as the wise, regardless of others, ever regardful of others, maternal as well as paternal, child as well as a man, stuffed with the stuff that is coarse and stuffed with the stuff that is fine, one of the nation of many nations, the smallest the same and the largest the same, a southerner soon as a northerner, a planter nonchalant and hospitable down by the Oconee, I live. A Yankee bound my own way, ready for trade, my joints the limberest joints, and my joints the roughest joints. A Kentuckian walking the vale of the Elkhorn in my deer skin leggings, a Louisianan or Georgian. A boatsman over lakes or bays or along coasts, a Hoosier, a Badger, a Buckeye. At home on Canadian snowshoes or up in the bush or with fishermen off Newfoundland. At home in the fleet of ice boats sailing with the rest and tacking. At home on the hills of Vermont or in the woods of Maine or the Texan ranch. Comrade of Californians, comrade of free Northwesterners, loving their big proportions. Comrade of raftsmen and coalmen, comrade of all who shake hands and welcome to drink and meet. A learner with the simplest, a teacher of the thoughtfulest, a novice beginning yet experient of myriads of seasons. Of every hue and caste am I, of every rank and religion, a farmer, mechanic, artist, gentleman, sailor, Quaker, prisoner, fancy man, rowdy, lawyer, physician, priest. I resist anything better than my own diversity. Breathe the air, but leave plenty after me. And I'm not stuck up and am in my place. The moth and the fish eggs are in their place. The bright suns I see and the dark suns I cannot see are in their place. The palpable is in its place and the impalpable is in its place.
So this poem is when I was just entering high school. It's called Algebra Grade 9, and it's kind of about a place that I shouldn't have been in. Uh, as you can tell, I'm more of an English person than I am a math person. So, Algebra Grade 9. My eyes wander from A plus B. My mind can't help but follow. They hold hands, as if afraid to cross a busy street when all they cross is double-paned glass. A bird flies through a giant snow cloud bunny, disappearing behind steel gray sunshine. I trace the path of a descending raindrop connecting 1, 2, 3. A cow in the field next door lows softly, barely audible for the hum of a fan and a spitwad on the back of my neck. X squared, it equals the bee buzzing beneath fluorescent lights.
And now for us, X squared is going to go to section 48. I have said that the soul is not more than the body, and I have said that the body is not more than the soul, and nothing, not God, is greater to one than oneself is. And whoever walks a furlough without sympathy walks to his own funeral dressed in his shroud. And I or you, pocketless of a dime, may purchase the pick of the earth. And to glance with an eye or to show a bean in its pod confounds the learning of all times. And there is no trade or employment, but the young man following it may become a hero. And there is no object so soft that it makes a hub for the wheeled universe. And I say to any man or woman, let your soul stand cool and composed before a million universes. And I say to mankind, be not curious about God, for I, who am curious about each, am not curious about God. No array of terms can say how much I am at peace about God and about death. I hear and behold God in every object, yet understand God not in the least, nor do I understand who there can be more wonderful than myself. Why should I wish to see God better than this day? I see something of God each hour of the 24 and each moment then. In the faces of men and women, I see God, and in my own face in the glass. I find letters from God dropped in the street, and every one is signed by God's name, and I leave them where they are, for I know that wheresoever I go, others will punctually come forever and ever.
So that section was about Whitman and where he found God, and this poem is about where I found God, and it's called Love the Sinner. It's Sunday, and I'm woken by the rustling of sunbeams through morning trees against my leg. The smell of breakfast sneaks past my door. It tickles my eyelids, a sermon of hash browns and bacon. My bare feet echo soundlessly off the carpet. A yawn escapes my stretching body as I enter the church I've attended for 17 years. The one with a congregation of pushing cousins, screaming brothers, and empowered aunts. The church that served waffles as communion wafers and comic strips we devoured like Technicolor Bible verses. Talk of Saturday night sketches double as prayers and cartoon theme songs as hymns. It's Sunday, and we find God another way, peeking from behind 14 across and 39 down.
Section 44. It is time to explain myself. Let us stand up. What is known, I strip away. I launch all men and women forward with me into the unknown. The clock indicates the moment, but what does eternity indicate? We have thus far exhausted trillions of winters and summers. There are trillions ahead and trillions ahead of them. Births have brought us richness and variety, and other births will bring us richness and variety. I do not call one greater and one smaller. That which it fills its period and place is equal to any. Were mankind murderous or jealous upon you, my brother, my sister? I am sorry for you. They are not murderous or jealous upon me. All has been gentle with me. I keep no account with lamentation. What have I to do with lamentations? I am an acme of things accomplished, and I an encloser of things to be. My feet strike an apex of the apices of the stairs. On every step, bunches of ages and larger bunches between the steps, all below duly traveled, and still I mount and mount. Rise after rise, bow the phantoms behind me. Afar down, I see the huge first nothing. I was even there. I waited unseen and always and slept through the lethargic mist and took my time and took no hurt from the fetid carbon. Long I was hugged close, long and long. Immense have been the preparations for me. Faithful and friendly the arms that have helped me. Cycles ferried my cradle, rowing and rowing like cheerful boatmen. For room to me, stars kept aside their own rings. They sent influences to look after what was to hold me. Before I was born out of my mother, generations guided me. My embryo has never been torpid. Nothing could overlay it. For it, the nebula cohered to an orb, the long, slow strata piled to rest it on. Vast vegetables gave it sustenance. Monstrous sauroids transported it in their mouths and deposited it with care. All forces have been steadily employed to complete and delight me. Now on this spot, I stand with my robust soul.
All right, so for me, this next poem is about college. So we've gotten into my college years, and it's called Chasing Inspiration. Your beginning rests around the shower drain. A few words hidden under the toothpaste cap, a phrase scrawled in my scrambled eggs. I find part of you in my commute to work, whining with my scraping brakes, and road signs and construction work. You peek at me from behind the lecture podium. You find meaning in philosophy notes and quantitative math problems. You smile when the boy in biology catches me staring. Again. I chase you to rehearsal, catching you in the small moments when nobody's looking. Actors try to repeat you, losing something with each attempt. Finally, I make it home, open a notebook. but you're gone.
Whitman didn't have that problem for this poem. He was he found inspiration. Section 46. I know I have the best of time and space and was never measured and never will be measured. I tramp a perpetual journey. Come, listen all. My signs are a rain-proof coat, good shoes, and a staff cup cut from the woods. No friend of mine takes his ease in my chair. I have no chair, no church, no philosophy. I lead no man to a dinner table, library, exchange, but each man and each woman of you I lead upon a knoll. My left hand hooking you around the waist, my right hand pointing to the landscapes of continents and the public road. Not I, not anyone else can travel the road for you. You must travel it yourself. It is not far, it is within reach. Perhaps you have been on it since you were born and did not know. Perhaps it is everywhere, on water and on land. Shoulder your duds, dear son, and I will mine, and let us hasten forth. Wonderful cities and free nations we shall fetch as we go. If you tire, give me both burdens and rest the chuff of your hand on my hip, and in due time you shall repay the same service to me. For after we start, we never lie by again. This day before dawn, I ascended a hill and looked at the crowded heaven, and I said to my spirit, when we become the enfolders of those orbs and the pleasure and knowledge of everything in them, shall we be filled and satisfied then? And my spirit said, no, we but level that live to pass and continue beyond. You are also asking me questions, and I hear you. I answer that I cannot answer. You must find out for yourself. Sit a while, dear son. Here are biscuits to eat, and here is milk to drink. But as soon as you sleep and renew yourself in sweet clothes, I kiss you with a goodbye kiss and open the gate for your egress hence. Long enough have you dreamed contemptible dreams. Now I wash the gum from your eyes. You must habit yourself to the dazzle of the light and of every moment of your life. Long have you timidly waited, holding a plank by the shore. Now I will you to be a bold swimmer, to jump off in the midst of the sea, rise again, nod to me, shout, and laughingly dash with your hair.
So in that one, Whitman was encouraging someone to do their own traveling, their own discovery. And this poem is about finding someone to travel with, to have those discoveries with. It's about falling in love. It's called Wishes Unspent. I recall that night together where fireflies two-stepped before our eyes, their dance candlelight for ours. Spinning in dizzying circles, we laughed, falling into the ground, collapsing into each other. The damp grass backlit us as words mingled with sapphire teardrop stars, my hand absent-mindedly tracing lines on the back of yours. We spoke of everything that night, growing old and living young. We spoke of your fear of Winnie the Pooh and my green Skittle obsession. We spoke of the scar on the inside of your lower left arm and my hairline fractured ankle. We spoke as two people in love, both too afraid to admit it, skirting around the truth with beautiful cold chamber eyes, and guess what happened? I studied your face, learning, memorizing. I became familiar with the bridge of your nose, the way your frameless glasses balanced, the slight dip below your eyes. It was all there, your story, unfolded. I watched your mother's drunkenness in the silhouette of your lips, felt your father's beatings in the remainder of one dimple. We stayed in the Kentucky bluegrass until the sun began to scorch the horizon. A shooting star flitted across the paling night, leaving a trail of smoldering space ruins. Me not wanting to waste it, and you, well, that's your secret.
Section 23. endless unfolding of words of ages, and mine a word of the modern, the word en masse. A word of the faith that never balks. Here or henceforward, it is all the same to me. I accept time absolutely. It alone is without flaw. It alone rounds and completes all. That mystic, baffling wonder alone completes all. I accept reality and dare not question it. Materialism first and last imbuing. Hurrah for positive science! Long live exact demonstration! Fetch stone crop mixed with cedar and branches of lilac. This is the lexicographer, this the chemist. This made a grammar of the old cartridges. These mariners put the ship through dangerous unknown seas. This is the geologist. This works with the scalpel. And this is a mathematician. Gentlemen, to you, the first honors always. Your facts are useful, and yet they are not my dwelling. I but enter by them to an area of my dwelling. Less the reminders of properties told my words, and more the reminders they of life untold, and of freedom and extrication, and make short account of neuters and geldings, and favor men and women fully equipped, and beat the gong of revolt, and stop with fugitives and them that plot and conquer.
So that was his section that was sort of an ode to science, and this is my poem that is sort of an ode to science, and it brings us to the modern day of my life. It's called A Simple Piece of Fabric. A simple 9-inch by 6-inch piece of fabric reveals so much. An oracle for our modern age. A simple piece of fabric divides for us against us. We read omens in a simple piece of fabric. Deaths surpass 200,000, 300,000, maybe more, all because a simple piece of fabric was too much to ask. When a simple piece of fabric is no longer necessary, all pandemics end, I wonder how I will look you in the eye as we bury our dead in the chasm between us.
So we're nearing the end here. We've got two more sections of Whitman's poem. This is one of his final sections, section 51. You might recognize a line from it, maybe two. The past and present wilt. I have filled them, emptied them, and proceed to fill my next fold of the future. Listener up there, what have you done to confide to me? Look in my face while I snuff the sidle of evening. Talk honestly. No one else hears you, and I stay only a minute longer. Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. I concentrate toward them that are nigh. I wait on the door slab. Who has done his day's work? Who will soonest be through with his supper? Who wishes to walk with me? Will you speak before I am gone? Will you prove already too late?
Man, I love that. Do I contradict myself? I contain multitudes. It's one of my favorites too. So this is basically my final poem for the night. That's about me, especially. And this is sort of about the multitudes I contain and where I come from. It's called Deep Brown Eyes. I'm from broken homes and broken families. From old voices saying I hate you in the morning and young ones wishing they would die at night. I'm from fences, wooden, red, they can keep you caged. I'm from sick maples reduced to stumps, from rose bushes growing out of a spare tire. I'm from bloody holidays and deep brown eyes, from Natalie and Connie molding me into who I am. I am from magicians disappearing before my eyes and promises never kept. From say no, run away, find a grown-up friend to tell. And I love you for all that you are, while screaming obscenities like fag and fairy, telling me I'll never amount to anything. I'm from lazy Sundays spent lying in bed. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. And now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep from children's Bible stories and angels with telepathy. I'm from this great land of liberty, from pirates sunk in glory days, from a guy signing for our independence, from red-faced natives, and from whatever happened to be cheapest at the liquor store. I'm from blackberry brandy kissy faces and dill pickle memories, from mistakes repeated by my grandmother, my mother, my aunt, from black eyes and bloody noses passed down among the generations, and the bitterness of my grandfather for grounded flights and not being able to walk a straight line. I'm from the worst kind of hand-me-downs, a boy sitting alone in the dark.
Section 52 from Walt Whitman's Song of Myself. The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and my loitering. I, too, am not a bit tamed. I, too, am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of the world. The last scud of day holds back for me. It flings my likeness after the rest in true as any of the shallowed wilds. It coaxes me to the vapor and the dusk. I depart as air. I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I effuse my flesh in eddies and drift it in lacy jags. I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass that I love. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere, waiting for you.
All right, and we've come to our last piece of the evening, and it's just something that it's really short, and it's just something we wanted to leave you with. It's called Revolution is a cyan blue garden. Sometimes the smallest acts are the most revolutionary.
A planted seed takes root to become a forest.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This was a verse by verse. And I've been Benjamin Rexrode.
And I've been Kyle Joza of Wandering Aesthetics.
Thank you so much to both of you. It's been an enjoyable evening.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. I'm sure we'll see you around sometime with the Akron Summit County Public Library System. Take care.
Okay.